These stories are true. IS hashtag, plus you not. A humorous look at online dating. For the unsuspecting older human. Catherine Arbera. These stories are true. I shit you not, a humorous look at online dating for the unsuspecting older human published by Sassy Pants Press. Denver Copyright 2022 Catherine Arbera. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form or by any mechanical means, including information storage and retrieval systems without permission in writing from the publisher/author, except by a reviewer who may quote passages in a review. All images, logos, quotes, and trademarks included in this book are subject to use according to trademark and copyright laws of the United States of America. Humor/men, women and relationships. Cover and interior by Victoria Wolf, wolfdesignandmarketing.com. Copyrights held by author. All rights reserved by Catherine Arbera and Sassy Pants Press. Sassy Pants Press. To all fellow daters of any age who can relate to these experiences but continue to tolerate and carry on in the dating world and who also shine a light on this messy thing called life. We are not quitters. Acknowledgements. Onward. The last date I went on. The Johnson Gallery. Fried chicken and sex toys. Peter's protruding personal parts. Steering wheel Wanda. The soldier. Plant my seed. Duped at dinner. Diabetic ulcers and stick shifts. Contents. The horse guy. The professor's paramours. The golfer/stalker. Rebecca the waxer. Peeing on the floor just means he had a bad week. The Bologna incident. Closed head injury. The Pope would not approve. Cairo Johnson. Vicky the nurse. Golf and bleep. Small girl, big wedding. Who's to judge? About the author. Other books by Catherine Arbera. Lucid Life, a collection of lyrical poetry. Acknowledgements. Thank you to the following wonderful human beings for guiding me through the process of putting these stories on paper and helping me garner the courage to send them out into the universe. Megan Rich, who after hearing these stories firsthand, finally convinced me to write this book. Polly Letovsky, Publishing Mama, My Word Publishing. Laura Dent, Developmental and Line Editor, The Durango Wordsmith. Victoria Wolf, Cover Designer Extraordinaire, Wolf Design and Marketing. Lori Groff for taking the time to give a new author a boost. Catherine Zinder for her honest feedback and lols. Jen Pradas for her insightful input. Sally Ann Bianchetta for her truly amazing creative inspiration. My passionate son, Alexander Aziz, who will probably hide under a rock after reading these stories. The plethora of friends who laughed at my expense while listening to these ridiculous stories yet motivated me to carry on and publish. And to all of the men I've dated, the good, the bad, and the ugly, who have taken me on this crazy ride so far. Cheers. Yeah, dating is cool. But have you ever tried stuffed crust pizza? Onward. Hello, my fellow online and modern daters. It goes without saying that we all deserve a wonderful partner in our lives, someone who adores us and who we want to adore right back. Right? The problems at any age arise when we set out to find that special someone using the modern-day phenomenon known as online dating. For me, as a single mom for many years, this madcap journey began when my son left for college. At that time, I personally knew 3 couples with beautiful relationships who had met online. They were so close and had lots in common. They inspired me to venture online to find that special someone. After all, I was a well-educated professional in my late 40s and a world traveler with lots of life experience. I loved golf, good restaurants, the performing arts, nice cars, travel, kids, and great intellectual conversation. At the time, I worked with a very prominent, politically connected family in Washington, D.C. My social life involved attending very high-end and hoity-toity events and performing arts galas. The man I was looking for would be asked to escort me on many an evening to these events if he so chose. This is why I was looking for an upstanding, socially sophisticated guy. Let's just say that I was not a tough biker chick looking for a tough biker dude. I was just a nice, friendly, hard-working lady looking for a good guy who was interested in rowing a mutually beneficial boat in the same direction. So, after hearing positive stories from friends and admiring quite a few who had great success with this valiant method of dating, I decided to jump right in. Writing my dating profile was a bit odd. How does one describe themselves to strangers and not sound haughty and self-important? I took suggestions from experienced online dating friends and just kept it simple, to the point, and not very overstimulating one way or the other. The reality is that people in my age range have sometimes been married once, twice, 3, or 4 times, and they may have adult kids as well as 2-year-olds from rebound marriages. It's all a crapshoot. On the first site, I posted a picture of myself from a cruise I had taken a few months previous. There I am, standing on the deck, elbow resting on the railing, smiling, sunset in the background, wearing a nice, flowery sundress. I was excited about this new adventure and anticipated the wonderful messages I would receive. Within a few hours, the first response email I got was from some ding-dong who clearly took note of my cruise picture with the amazingly classy response of "nice jugs." That was it, nothing more. I wasn't sure if I was offended, more like shocked and just sort of astounded. The guy's profile photo said it all. Wife beater tank top, baseball hat, bad teeth, sitting in a fishing boat, gut protruding, holding up a very big dead fish. Super sexy. I blocked him. I truly wondered, how did my profile must-haves and never would accept algorithm match me with that winner? And this was when I decided to embrace the motto and attitude, I am not a quitter. Onward. But that first little note, that stellar gem, was just the beginning of what would become years of ludicrous connections and funny stories. I finished this book during the 2020/21 pandemic, social distancing craziness. And I'll be honest, I went back and forth about putting some of my own stories out there, mainly because I was somewhat mortified and also because I truly experience a humorous form of PTSD whenever I reread them. While the idea of social distancing might have seemed difficult for many, for those of us who have lived our lives as single humans for extended periods of time, it was not exceptionally hard. However, after months of minimal physical contact with humans during the COVID-19 crisis, albeit I did get to ride my horse a lot with friends, and we stayed our horsey distances apart, I began to feel the lack of human connection and touch as a truly isolating phenomenon. I thought about adopting a dog but then thought twice. The fact that I live in a condo without a yard was enough to stop me this time. In lieu of live dating, I once again figured I'd jump back into the online dating world. It would be better, I thought, not having to meet someone in person right away. Getting to know them via phone calls and even FaceTime or social distanced virtual coffee would be ideal. Granted, this was 10 years into online dating off and on, but being the ultimate optimist, I was once again enthusiastically ready for whatever came my way. Maybe taking time to get to know someone from a distance will make a difference. So, I jumped back in on 2 sites. One for a month, the other for 3. The first site I joined during the pandemic cost more than I usually spend, but I received over 65 likes the first day, and that continued. But there was no contact, no reaching out, no man had the gumption or wherewithal to actually make an effort to connect otherwise. COVID was scaring a lot of people into isolation. The most effort any of them made was to click that like button, which was disappointing but typical. The second site was a little slower, but I still got likes. In fact, one of them actually started emailing me, and it seemed like a good connection. Same old thing. We exchanged numbers and planned that I'd call him at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. No FaceTime, I said, knowing that I'd be coming in from a long day at the barn and looking too horsey. So 7 p.m. came around. I took the gum out of my mouth, got comfy on the couch, muted the TV, and dialed. No answer. I let it ring. His voicemail came on, but I did not leave a message. I waited 15 minutes to see if he would text or at least call back. Finally, I got a text from him, "Hey, I just ordered dinner with my daughter, and it was just delivered. Can I call you in a few?" Honestly, I got the whole pandemic thing, ordering food, dealing with kids who couldn't attend school in person. Etc. But please. We scheduled a call, and now miraculously your food just arrived at the same time we were supposed to talk. Sorry, no. I looked out my window and said out loud, "Here we go again." Nope. And I blocked him on my phone and the site. It seemed so laughably ridiculous to waste my time or to extend any sort of common courtesy. It still irks me to even mention it. I seriously thought about calling this book Love in the Time of Corona, or Online Dating in the Time of Pandemic, but instead I chose a title that pretty much sums up the facts. And that fact is we are all flawed, crazy, imperfect, vulnerable human beings, and the things we do sometimes in the search of love are questionable and hilarious, to say the least. When entering a place of business during the pandemic, we were often asked, "Have you experienced any loss in taste or smell?" My answer, which always got a giggle, became, "Well, I must say that I have been questioning my loss of taste in men." Indeed. This book contains stories from both male and female perspectives. Some are mine and some are tales from other brave souls. While I am not one to completely give up on anything, modern online dating has become a series of almost hysterical, exhausting interview-like experiences with twists and turns out of any sci-fi murder mystery romantic adventure movie. It seems that men have no idea how to be men anymore. And I'd probably say the same for women. A male friend of mine recently made a good point. Women get mad at you for opening a door, or they get mad if you don't open the door. Men can't win. In the era of staunch feminist demands, I'd say a majority of women of a certain age who were raised by one stay-at-home moms in the 60s, have put ourselves through college, have had success in our careers, and many of whom have raised children as single mothers, want men who are gentlemen. Men who open doors, pay for dinner, and demonstrate their desire to care for and protect us. On the other side of that coin are men wanting women who might need their manliness, women who are softer and gentler and kinder. But things are different now. Let's just put it this way, I have two friends who pay alimony to their ex-husbands. So, there's that. I believe women have become rough. Still, it's no excuse for the S-show that modern dating has become. I've heard stories about women who show up for dates with men who claim they are 5 feet 10 inches but are truly only 5 feet 5 inches. Stories of men who've posted good-looking photos of themselves closed-mouth smiling. However, and very importantly, failed to show in any of those photos that under that debonair smile was, as my friend found out upon meeting him for dinner, but one, single, tiny tooth in that mouth. One single tooth in the front. The question we had for her was, how did he actually eat dinner? I've even had a man invite me for a simple coffee date but did not buy my drink. I stood in line behind him and watched as he paid for his own coffee, walked to the table, and left me to order and pay for my own. If you're a man and invite me for coffee, my expectation is that you'll get me a coffee. One friend of mine, who is 62, met a guy online and chatted on the phone for a few days. During their first phone call, she told him all about her job, realtor, that she has a horse and makes time to ride often, and that she also has grown kids. A day or so later, he asked her, albeit in a very chauvinistic way, if, due to her job, she would ever cancel on him or make the horse a priority over him. Insecure much? She was honest. If a pending deal was in order and there were issues to deal with at the last minute, of course, it might require a cancellation or postponement, but that's just work, and life. As for the horse, investing in one requires a time commitment, so she explained that to him as well. She wanted a relationship but not to give up her life and hobbies. After the call, she thought about it for a while, then contacted him via email to let him know in a very polite way that, after their last conversation, she was quite sure they were not a good match. She did not hear from him for a few days, but when she did, it was a doozy. I received your email explaining why you think we are not a good match. All I can say is that I hope that your horse provides you company on long, cold winter nights just like that damn horse did in The Godfather. For reference, that mafia movie scene depicts a movie producer who had refused a request from the Corleone family to cast Don Corleone's godson in his new film and makes a bunch of anti-Italian slurs in the process. When that same movie producer wakes up the next morning, he finds the severed head of his prized thoroughbred placed right next to him in his bed. Blood everywhere. This was this guy's reference. This was that man's response to her polite rejection. Guys are just so special sometimes. Again, this was a man in his late 50s. She blocked him. Ah, it's not just me. Men sure have changed. Some might say women have changed too, but perhaps we've just been given a new forum to air our thoughts and express how the work world has created changes. Even after building a thick skin to the harshness of the work world and putting on my lipstick armor, nothing prepared me for the online dating world. If you've been in the dating world for years, you know that we older women, or women of any age actually, can sit around and spew loads of hilarity and detailed descriptions regarding the size of men's parts, their ex-wives from hell, their performance, or lack thereof, their boy-like behaviors, etc., etc. Yes, ladies can be raunchy, we've earned the right. It doesn't negate our femininity, it just gives us a little bit of power in the overall game. And yes, sex is a very big part of the equation at any age, probably on the same level as a man being financially stable. Honestly, if he can't fulfill those vital roles, then older, self-sufficient women won't bother. As an example, I was recently at a lunch with friends. One of the women described a guy she was set up with: tall, handsome, successful, drove a Lamborghini, and had grown kids out the house. But there was one big, or little, issue. Thinking that his parts would match his height, She was very excited to see what he was like in bed. So eventually, it happened, and she described it in the most perfectly humorous way. Well, let's just put it this way, his parts did not match his height. He's a big drinker, but that didn't seem to matter in some ways. But he had a little beer belly that was getting in the way, so when he tried to put it in, it kept popping out. At this point she put her finger in her mouth and made a popping sound like a cork. We laughed hysterically. One of the group ended up having to run to the ladies' room because, as we all know, sometimes a good laugh at the stage also invites an accidental pee. Yes, we tried and tried, but that little sausage kept popping out, and to tell you the truth, I'm not up for that. At this point, I want good sex. I don't want a man whose winky can't even stay in, and I don't want to work that hard to make it happen. If you know what I mean. I am not going to be a nurse or a purse. She winked. We all made the cork popping sound, toasted each other, and laughed our heads off. These stories happen to women of all ages, too. For example, Linda, who worked at my barn, was only 27 and related a story about a guy she dated for over a year. They'd been having a nice time, did a lot of traveling, and loved the performing arts, but things seemed to be losing steam. One night out to dinner, he seemed very quiet. "I've got something to tell you," he said quietly. "Okay, that sounds serious." Granted, she'd felt that they were not going anywhere and had quite honestly been losing interest. "I've decided to go back to my husband." Linda almost spit her drink out. "What the hell are you talking about? Husband?" "Yes, I am married to a man. I didn't tell you because we've been separated for several years, but we've decided to get back together again. I know I should have told you." "Should have told me? What the hell? Are you kidding me? You're married? To a man? I've been sleeping with you. Who else are you sleeping with? You're a lying liar who lies. You're a cheater, a jerk, and an asshole. Oh my God." She stormed out of the restaurant, shocked, embarrassed, humiliated, and infuriated. She made her way to the doctor the next morning to have every single STD test known to man. He should have told her, but it was not on his agenda. Needless to say, sick of the cheaters, even young Linda is taking a break from dating. I use her story for reference because it seems that no matter when you start on this adventure, you're in for a crazy ride. There are so many outlandish stories from my other friends, one who got so excited on a first tennis date that she fell flat on her face and broke her hand. She was so mortified, she ran off the court and drove to urgent care never to see him again. Another friend dated a special ops guy for 6 months and then found out he was using a fake name and wasn't even who she thought he was. A male friend went home with a woman from a bar one night, and when he tried to leave, she literally laid on the ground and stuck her legs under his car, so he could not go anywhere. 1. Friend had so many bad dates that she found levity in giving the men nicknames like Sweaty Jimmy, I Miss You Bob, Stalactite Pooper and Recon Joe. Another male friend gave in to attending couples counseling when his new girlfriend requested it to help them with their communication problems, only to soon thereafter be dumped by the same girlfriend because the counselor concluded that the girlfriend and her compulsive control issues were the problem, not him. And, of course, the suit matched purse matched pump sweet as pie, unassuming female CPA who, out of all possibilities, began dating her online choice of a man who ran an illegal cockfighting business in Florida. Truth is stranger than fiction. The stories are endless. And you might ask after reading these tales of preposterousness why anyone would subject themselves to it at all. The fact is, no one goes into this at any age thinking it's going to be anything but good. Until, of course, so many bad dates transpire that the minutiae of each escapade transforms into entertaining fodder for a book like this one. The following stories are true, but the names have been changed to protect my sanity. The stories are in no particular order but are offered here in the most humorous way I could muster to present a bona fide collection of craziness. So, I now invite you to sit back and laugh at my expense, but consider yourself warned, these stories are true, #plus you not. The last date I went on. My last coffee date consisted of me, prior to, riding my horse for 2 hours, arriving to the coffee shop in my post-horseback ride outfit, baseball hat, and not one single bleep to give as to how the date would go. I'd lost hope of course after many nutty dates and did not want to put much effort into the hour. Sad but true. The date went as follows. We met at Starbucks. I sat at a table outside and waited for him. I bought my own coffee before he got there even though he had invited me. I was taking the bull by the horns on this one, just in case. He arrived and, thankfully, looked like his profile pictures, which is always a plus. A 55-year-old professional guy who, by his profile description, seemed legit. Conversation was easy, so we sat and chatted about the basics for a few minutes. Then, as I'd experienced so many times before, he took over the conversation. So, I'm an executive director at X company. It's a little easy for my taste, but it keeps me out of trouble. These new millennials, makes it a tough call sometimes with their demands for time off and bagels on Friday. He laughed and took a sip of coffee. I was trying to get on with Z company, but at this stage, I'll stick it out unless they replace me with the young punks. I mentioned that I have a nice house on 3 acres up in the foothills here. Maybe you could come see it? I'm still in negotiations with the ex about that though, so it might be a while. I have 2 great daughters who are in college down in Denver. He looked around casually. Oh wait, I already mentioned that on the phone. Do you have any kids? I can't remember. I think you said you have a son. Yes, I have a son, he's. That's great. Kids really are great, aren't they? My daughters. I've taken them on a few big trips, France and Italy. That was when we were still married, but it was great. I think I liked France better, but Italy was something else. And on he went, hardly took a breath. After about 40 minutes of me sitting patiently enjoying the sunshine and counting the minutes until the hour was up, he unfortunately started talking more about his marriage. I suppose I'd want to know eventually, but not all the damn details yet. I really didn't want to lose my girls or be limited in seeing them with visitation. Call me selfish, but it's the way it was. So, 6 years ago, I just decided that I'd wait it out and make the best of it until my youngest was 18. I'm not embarrassed to say that for the past 6 years, I literally pretended to be in the marriage. You know, just playing the part. I sat silently listening to this load of crapola. The day after my youngest turned 18, and I had planned this all out of course, I went to the courthouse and filed for divorce. She had no idea. He looked off into the distance. He seemed almost proud of his sneaky success and related the details as if it were some grand, earth-shattering accomplishment for which he deserved revered acclaim. My ex and I always met at Costco on Thursday evening after work to do a bulk shop. I did things as normal and that was the day I also filed. I got to Costco, we did our shopping like nothing was different, and then when we were ready to get in our separate cars, I handed her the folder with the divorce papers. He didn't notice me shaking my head. She never saw it coming. It was pretty uncomfortable, and she was shocked. I tried to be somewhat nice until she moved out, but it needed to be done. What the what? I looked at him, stalling to respond while taking numerous sips of my coffee, contemplating the idiocy and insensitivity of this guy as if he had 2 heads. Why in the world could any man think that a woman, especially one who he is trying to impress on a first date, would find this story appealing or attractive? That a woman would find that sort of deceitful behavior a good thing? To trick your spouse into believing you were in the marriage when at least 6 years of it were a complete falsehood? Selfish jerk. I smiled a fake smile and did the nod and shake of disbelief. Wow, that's something else. I said in a monotone voice, not sure what in the wild world he was expecting me to say at all. Yeah, well, and now here I am with you. Dating and trying to get out there. Yay me. He held up his coffee cup in a toast to his selfish self. Yes, you're out there all right. I finished my coffee, adjusted my baseball cap over my dirty horsey hair, and stood up to leave. Well, I've got things to do. I'm so glad it was nice and sunny today. Because if it wasn't, I'd have been gone 20 minutes ago, you goofball. He attempted to kiss me, but I turned, and he got my dusty cheek. So, I'll call you, okay? I think this could be good. Wrong you are, pal. Sure. I raised my eyebrows and rolled my eyes as he semi-hugged me, and I patted his back as if it was lava. At that point, I really didn't even have the wherewithal to say no, it was too unbelievable and weird. I should have told. Him what an ass he was, but saved my energy. This was no big deal to him. It was what he did, and that was that, as if he had zero concept of my perception of this story. He did call a few days later, but I didn't answer. I had forgotten to block him, but did at that moment. And that's when I took a break from the dating scene, and lucky for you, spent lots of time writing down these nutty stories. I'll get the inkling to try online dating, or any sort of dating, again, but am currently just leaving it up to the universe to send some great man into my orbit if that's a thing. I'll be patient though, because God only knows it's exhausting dealing with these nut jobs. The Johnson Gallery. During the first few months of my online dating experience in my late 40s, I was fascinated by what I comedically yet mortified called my Johnson Gallery. Okay, it was actually called the PNS Gallery, but I'm trying to keep it clean here. This gallery was an accumulation of presents sent, unsolicited, by potential suitors. Did I keep it for a long time? No. But was it worth the laughs I got when I shared the concept of it with other women who also received these unwelcome sorts of mail offerings? Yes. We were all comically astonished to be the beneficiaries of such vulgar fabulousness. How does this happen, you ask? These days, from what we see in the media, it's quite a common thing. But in the early days of texting and technological advances in phones, it was all new. As a simple example of how I personally became the recipient of these gifts, I'll relate a story that innocently occurred on a typical workday. One morning at work, relieved to have finished a project with a deadline, I gave myself a few minutes break and emailed a man on one of the dating sites. We'd been chatting on the site for a few days, so I decided to finally give him my phone number. I told him to get a hold of me late morning, and maybe we could meet for lunch or coffee. As it got close to lunch, I heard my phone ding and excitedly picked it up in anticipation of meeting him in the next few hours. I eagerly opened the text without a thought and sure enough, whoop, there it was, his dangling ding-a-ling. My jaw hit the floor. While I was still recovering from the shock, he sent another photo. I was reluctant to look, but at least this one was just his face. Hey there, just thought I send these before lunch. Sort of a dessert before the meal. No 00000. Must have said it a little bit too loudly. My coworker, Linda, in the next office exclaimed. What? Before I knew it, she was standing in my doorway, arms crossed, shaking her head. Don't tell me. I had explained my frustration with her about this continued phenomenon, and amazingly, she'd had similar experiences. She was the smart one and had subsequently cancelled her online dating subscriptions. I just don't see why men think that pictures of their ding-dongs are something we want to receive on our phone while at work, driving, at home, actually anytime at all. I mean, it could cause an accident for God's sake. But now that he's sent it, let's see. Let's do a scale of 1 to 10 analysis. She walked over to my desk and stood behind my chair to look over my shoulder. Oh my God. Seriously. Seriously. If he thinks that's worthy of being sent through cyberspace. I'd say it's about a 5. He is cute though. But no. Not worth the aggravation. Linda strolled to the door, looked back at me, and dramatically rolled her eyes. You should write these down, these dating stories. You should write a book about all of these nut jobs. She yelled as she made her way back into her office. No one will believe me. No one will ever believe any of this really happens. These guys are all too bizarre. No one could ever imagine, it's ludicrous. Good Lord. I do not want to have lunch with Mr. Johnson. It took me a while to respond. What should I say? I yelled back to her. And to the no. Ag. Okay. A male coworker walked by my office and smiled. I smiled back with a deer-in-headlights gaze. If only he knew what was going on at that moment. I sat for a minute in disappointment. Not that it was atypical at this point, but I was tired of it. Jaded from getting these icky pictures before even meeting a guy. I mean, what would I do upon our first introduction? Shake his hand, look down, grab his package, and say, well, pictures don't lie? I typed seriously. No thank you. Well, okay. Your loss, babe. And that was that. Never heard a peep from him again. Not a word. And this is one of the many reasons that online dating is exhausting. You think you're putting out a good vibe, the right must-haves, and no way would I ever accept information, but it just doesn't matter. Pictures of men's winkies are now a common little and sometimes big present we women receive without solicitation. Coincidentally, and quite laughably, Linda and I were on a road trip for work a few weeks later, and out of the blue, I got a new text from another guy I'd been communicating with online. Again, this was random. I'd not even talked to him yet. I literally had given him my phone number the day before. I glanced at my phone when I heard it ding. My eyes grew wide, and I sighed. I looked at Linda. What is it? She asked from the passenger seat. It's another one. Are you freaking kidding me? How is this even possible? She grabbed my phone and took a gander. Thinking of you. She read out loud. Nice message. Oh, for God's sake. What the actual hell? Well, at least this one is about a 7. Unbelievable. I am really just tired of it. I swear to God. I think I'll cancel my subscription again. Instead of Match, they should. Call it snatch, but I guess that's a girl's parts. Ha! I'm just done. Why can't we just meet some nice, non-winky obsessed men? It's absurd. Well, I did meet a nice one. She said. His name is Bob, as in battery-operated boyfriend. He's available when I need him, gives me no drama, isn't possessive or jealous, and he's very accommodating. And that's the way I like it. Oh my God. You are so bad. But I get it, I really get it. When men so candidly sent these sorts of pictures, it was almost as if they were saying, here, this is the most intimate part of me. Let's skip all of the other parts of relationship because you know that all we want is sex, so why wait to share our stuff? Let's get it over with to see if there is interest in that department. Yet this is not what most of us want, so it is not only frustrating, albeit hysterical at times, but really a sad statement on the common dilemma of the lack of real connection. Our cell phones have made it easier to communicate, but we are losing the need to connect in person. People hide behind their texts and often stay there. It's very apparent that some people choose to live in an autonomous world of reckless abandon. I'm still wondering what men think right before they send these pictures. The time they spend, if you know what I mean, to get that good shot. Why in the hell would a man think a woman wants to see that before even meeting him? Then, of course, our culture has become a quick hookup society, which is scary in itself. I laughed about it for a while. My friends would be in hysterics at the stories and always wanted a glimpse. Johnson 1 and Johnson 2 are similar, but Johnson 3, well now, that one is something. I deleted my Johnson gallery long ago, but still giggle at the circumstances and how preposterous it all was. We women are not quitters. We take breaks from the online nuttery and hope to somehow meet men doing what we love or through people we trust. But then again, do we really need the intrusion of long-lasting relationships into our amazingly ravishing, exciting lives? Nights of Netflix binging, face masks, long phone calls with our friends, and teeth whitening on the couch. It's not glamorous all the time, but at least it's not as stressful as some of these dating scenarios. In the meantime, and thanks to Linda's enthusiastic recommendation, I'll see what my Bob has to offer. Wink, wink. Call it snatch, but I guess that's a girl's parts. Ha. I'm just done. Fried chicken and sex toys.